Prise de débat, the honourable member for Bonavista, Burin, Trinity.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm pleased to join today's debate on Bill C-69. The proposed changes are important because they build on and strengthen legislation that has been described as historic, groundbreaking, and a major turning point for resource development in Canada. There's a good reason for all of these superlatives, because Bill C-69, even more so now that it's been amended, is a potential game changer in the way Canada reviews new major resource projects by creating greater investment certainty, restoring public confidence, advancing Indigenous reconciliation, strengthening protections for our environment, fish and waterways, and establishing better rules for cooperation among various levels of government and federal regulatory agencies. For example, there's a proposed early engagement and planning phase that would bring the proponents of new projects together with local communities and Indigenous peoples to identify priorities and concerns. Mr. Speaker, this would have two immediate benefits. First, project proponents and their investors would get a clear lay of the land before they spend a lot of money advancing their proposals. And second, by identifying the key issues early, the project reviews would be shorter and more focused. These kinds of results would be transformational for Canada's resource industries. They would enhance our competitiveness at the same time that we are ensuring sustainability, demonstrating yet again that the economic prosperity and environmental protection are not competing interests, but equal components in a single engine that will drive clean growth. Mr. Speaker, Bill C-69 features many other innovative measures that are equally significant, and I'm pleased to see that the amendments proposed at committee are consistent with the spirit and intent of the legislation. Amendments that would further advance the recognition of Indigenous rights. Amendments that would enhance public participation and transparency. Amendments to improve timelines and predictability. And amendments to clarify both ministerial discretion and the factors to be considered during impact assessments and regulatory reviews. Many of these amendments extend across all acts within the bill, but I'd like to focus my time on how the proposed changes would reinforce the goals of the Canadian Energy Regulator Act. For those who may be watching at home and are new to Bill C-69, the proposed new Canadian Energy Regulator would replace the National Energy Board. Our aim is to create a more modern federal regulator with the required independence and the proper accountability to oversee a strong, safe, and sustainable Canadian energy sector in this clean growth century. Mr. Speaker, the Canadian Energy Regulator proposes to do this in 5 key areas. 1, more modern and effective governance. 2, greater certainty and timelier decisions for project proponents. Better public consultations. 4, greater Indigenous participation. And 5, and stronger safety and environmental protections. The amendments before us move the yardstick in each of these areas. So, for example, we have a proposal from committee to clarify the factors to be considered by the Canadian Energy Regulator to ensure that climate change is considered when the regulator is making decisions about non-designated projects such as pipelines, power lines, and offshore projects. Mr. Speaker, I do have to say that I am disappointed in the opposition for how they treated this historic piece of legislation. During the committee review, they attempted to completely remove the Canadian Newfoundland and Labrador Offshore Petroleum Board from the review panel process. This is quite shocking, as it was proposed despite massive objections from Newfoundland and Labradorians, as well as the experts. In fact, the biggest single criticism of the 2012 changes from the previous government in Newfoundland and Labrador was that it left the CNLOPB out of the entire process. It is clear the opinion of the Conservatives have not changed. I'm proud that Bill C-69 incorporates the critical role of the CNLOPB. Mr. Speaker, in their appearance before the Environment Committee, the CNLOPB said C-69 provides for improvements over the current process and will allow them to work closer and more collaboratively with federal agencies and regulators. They also said that regional assessments allowed for in C-69 will strengthen the process. Mr. Speaker, other amendments propose ways to enhance the new energy regulators' transparency and to provide for more meaningful opportunities for Canadians to participate in the regulatory process. This includes a requirement for processes and funding to support Indigenous and public engagement. Further, there's an important amendment stipulating that whenever a project proponent issues a notice, which means that it has submitted information to the Canadian Energy Regulator, that the regulator would be required to put that notice on its website. This is an important step to inform the public about projects. As for discretionary powers, the only exemption orders that would now be allowed under the Canadian Energy Regulator Act would be to ensure safety and security, or for the protection of property or the environment. Mr. Speaker, other proposed changes build on the principle of one project, one review. For example, we see an amendment proposing the integrated review panels be allowed to include other jurisdictions, thereby ensuring a single impact assessment that still meets all requirements. And there are amendments that provide greater certainty about the transition to a new review process. This includes adding objective criteria to determine which projects would continue to be reviewed under SIA 2012, as well as a provision to encourage proponents to opt in to Bill C-69's new process. And of course, there are other further clarifications that no project proponent will be asked to return to the starting line. These are all good amendments that our government welcomes. Mr. Speaker, we believe these changes will help to create an even better Canadian energy regulator, that they would ensure good energy projects go ahead with timely and transparent decisions that reflect common values and shared benefits, and that they would lead to smarter resource development, more effective reviews, and better results. Taken together, Bill C-69 and its amendments are appropriately ambitious and historic. They reflect the adage that you have to swing for the fences if you want to hit a home run. Bill C-69 as amended does that. I hope all members will support Bill C-69 and its changes so we can get on with the business of building an even better Canada. One where the way we manage and develop our natural resources truly reflects who we are as Canadians and the values we cherish most. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments?